So we've got this messy spreadsheet here. A company needs to answer the question, can they buy this crane for $240,000? Board approval. They said the answer is in this spreadsheet, 47 tabs. Good gravy. The dashboard doesn't work. It's broken. Like I said, multiple tabs. The information to make this decision lies in here. We've got 4 forecasts. Apparently this last one here is the one, according to Denise, is the right one. And we've got another tab that Mike put in here. Mike says his numbers are correct somewhere in here. And then, of course, we've got a hidden tab somewhere. There's always a hidden tab in one of these messy spreadsheets. And I think the key is this is modeled on some of the workbooks I've seen in organizations. You probably have one in your organizations. People have sent me these. And every time I get these messy kind of legacy spreadsheets, that's always a software application in the making. And I want you to realize that. If you have a spreadsheet like this, in your business, your organization, remember, it's a software application in the making. With these tools now, with using Codex, Claude Code, and the tools that you have, you can turn this into real software. I'm going to show you that in 4 sprints using an architect builder method, my architect builder method that you can use with my project launcher. This isn't vibe coding. It's using these tools, coding if you want to call it that, but it is using these coding tools, these tools that are with you to answer some of these questions. And this is a small example, but the method is the same, to turn this mess into some sort of app that answers the question. In this case, in this example, can we purchase this crane truck or any of these capital expenditures? So we're going to show you how we're going to do that. So stay tuned. Okay, some quick ground rules here if you need here. I don't open an AI coding tool and start typing, hey, build me a dashboard. That's how you get an over-engineered monstrosity that falls apart in week 2. Instead, I create a project using the architect builder method, where the architect plans and the builder executes. Now, the architect is a coding agent, same with the builder. It can be Codex, it can be Claude Code, it can be a combination of the both. And then the handoff between these conversations is the folder structure, not a conversation in these agents. So you get requirements, blueprints, acceptance criteria. For example, in my project launcher, I will connect one of my current projects in the project launcher, and you can see the scaffolding and the folder structure that gets created. Not only does the architect briefing, which gets updated all the time, it always shows you where you stand. And right now for this project, onboarding the tester is this, recommend X action. I can get a full briefing in the architect briefing right here. All of this is done by the agents inside the architect builder method. You can also look at the folder structure that is on my desktop or in my repo at the same time. You get all of these documents in here. You get this architecture method for this project, the deploy method, the rigor profile. All of this is in my architect builder method with the agents that I've created. It creates architect packs. These are the detailed instructions for each sprint that the architect comes up with. And then it also generates the sprints for your builder. Again, the agent, whatever one you choose, shows exactly, for example, in this sprint, they each have an acceptance criteria, a blueprint, a handoff prompt, requirements, all this detailed and structured and disciplined organization that you're not going to get if you just stay within one of these tools. You got to be able to communicate and keep the context alive. That's why I had this architect builder method, so it's never lost. The context never gets lost. You've got historical knowledge. If you want to build a session in Codex, fine. And the next one in Claude Code, fine. If you want to use Cursor and use their agent in there, fine. It always knows because it comes back to this disciplined historical folder structure, so it's always brought up to speed. That's the power that nobody's teaching you. This isn't vibe coding. This is disciplined coding to create something unique. But before even here in the project launcher, which we will launch the project and to build that scaffolding, before I do that, I need to do some brainstorming inside a large language model. So let me show you how I started this project. All right, so we're going to start in the brand new ChatGPT with the latest release 5.6. Everything's in one. We're going to start a new chat. I like the new format right in the corner here. And I'm going to start by putting in my spreadsheet that I was showing you as for context, and then I'm just going to start brainstorming. Hey, help me create a micro app. Here's the problem. It's a messy spreadsheet. I want to determine if we can afford this crane or any capital expenditure. I want a nice dashboard. I want something simple. I want minimal sprints. I'm telling them I'm doing a demo for YouTube for you guys. And I just do this back and forth conversation. You can't go wrong or do anything wrong here. Just have a conversation with a large language model. And that's what you're seeing me do here, back and forth. He's coming up with great recommendations. In fact, I couldn't even, it was so good. I was like, I agree with what you're saying. This is awesome. Let's keep building it. So again, it's going to ask questions. What are you trying to do? What's the intent? And eventually what I want to do is I want to get to the point when I start this project in my project launcher, which is going to create our scaffolding. I need to fill out this intake form. Well, I'm going to copy this prompt out of here and then go back to my brainstorm as I get near the end. I'm saying, hey, man, can you help me fill out in this format? Because I'm trying to create this architect builder method, this template, and here's what I need filled out. It'll ask me some more questions back and forth, and eventually it's going to give me this output. Now, this took about 30 minutes. I sped it out, obviously, and edited it, but this is the output that I eventually want out of my brainstorming session, because this is going to help me fill out my architect builder intake form in the project launcher, which is what you want. It makes it easier by having this, however long it takes to brainstorm the session. I'm going to take that output, I'm going to paste it in the project launcher to start a new project. I'm going to put it in this box right here, and I say pre-fill the form, and look at that. It fills out everything for me. I could type this myself. I don't have to do this, but this is how I do it. It's the best way. Because look, all these boxes are filled in, and the more boxes you have filled in, the better your scaffolding is going to be, and the better your first architect session is going to be. And so you can edit these, but I'm just showing you all these input forms, from the business rules, the systems, the tools, the pain points, out of scope, the scaffolding, the tech stack, what it's all going to do. We're going to create this space now, and this is what we're doing. Now I've got a project in the launcher created. This is all the intake that we just did. You can review it and change it if you want to, but this is what you bought the launcher for, is to create this downloaded folder, the scaffolding with the architect builder method, when all the agents pre-filled in for you. You're going to download this zip right here, and you're going to unzip it. You're going to open it on your computer and look right here. Here it is in my downloads folder, that top folder right there. This is the architect builder method. The templates, everything's filled out, ready to be filled in by your coding agents, either Codex or Claude Code or Cursor or whatever you want. Everything is set up for you. This is what you're paying for. All of this, and the method, and the creation of the agents, and how your coding agent is going to act, and the personality, all it's baked in. Now I'm going to take this download folder and put it into my builds folder where I do all my projects. I'm going to put it in there, and now we're ready to start having the coding conversation with our coding agent. All right, so now we're going to start the coding. The great thing about using the new ChatGPT, it's all in one app here in the desktop app. We're going to switch to Codex. We're going to close the chat that we were just in, brainstorming chat. Now, we need to make sure we're in the right folder structure. I'm not in the right folder structure. It's one of my other projects, so I need to navigate to the new project, existing folder, and we'll go to my builds folder in 120X, that purple folder down there, and it should be the top project, and it is. So I'm going to navigate there, and we're going to open up that folder. And when we look in Codex, you can see right there, it's switched. So we're in the right scaffolding, which is important. That's what we want, right? Because we're using the architect builder method, that agent, it understands there's a command for it. And it's in this second step right here. It says, run the architect from the folder. So if you're using Claude Code, which you're not, but if you are, you can use /architect. Codex, which we are, you can use a $120x/-architect. If you're using Cursor or some other agent, you can copy this prompt. So we're using Codex on this first sprint. So we're going to copy that command, $120x-architect. It's in the ChatGPT format. And we're going to paste it in here, and you should be able to see it. It's kind of like a skill in Claude, and we're going to run it. And essentially what we're going to do, it's reading the files in the scaffolding. Well, in the meantime, what's doing that, I'm going to rename this session. I'm going to call it Architect Pack 001. That's just technique, so I can see in that left-hand sidebar which I know which agent I'm using right now. Now it's telling me, hey, I got it, man. I understand the architect builder method. I'm going to be your architect. What do you want to build? It's recommending what we do. This first sprint is really kind of administrative, a lot of updating folders and setting the kind of folder structure, the file structure in the appropriate way. So we're going to communicate with it. We're doing back and forth. It's going to want me to upload the spreadsheet, which I did. He's saying, okay, I'm going to build this. I think I'm going to do some more investigating in the spreadsheet. So it's getting familiar. It's doing the architect, right? It's coming up with the detailed plans. It asked me what is the priority. And I said, I think the P&L should be over Mike's numbers. Does he agree? He's saying, yeah, he agrees. And essentially, again, this is back and forth. It's discovery, right? We're not writing code. We're still doing discovery. We're just expanding the brainstorming. He's saying, hey, here's what the hierarchy should be. Do you agree? I'm like, yeah, man, I agree. And I said, let's build that. And again, we're not coding yet. I got to be clear. We're building structure. We're building discipline into this. We're building plans, just like an architect is coming up with detailed drawings. And eventually we get to a point, which is right here. He's saying, hey, man, I think this is what the plan should be. Do you agree? I think this is what we should build. And so that's what, just think about if you're building your dream home, you're talking to your architect, you're brainstorming, right? You're coming up with the vision, extracting the dream. And eventually he says right here, he says, tell me, I'm ready to write this thing. Tell me go. And I say go. And that's what he's doing right here. Here is the Architect Pack 001. Think about it, detailed plans and drawings like you're going to give to your general contractor. Look at all this detail that we have in this Architect Pack 001. This is the power of the architect builder method. You're getting all this discipline, organization, and structure, so there's no loss of context. Your builder is going to know exactly what to build based on these set of instructions. This is the culmination of doing all the brainstorming, both in ChatGPT and in the architect method. Now, just for context, I'm going to show you what he's done right here. If you look at the folder structure, in this planning folder, you can see the architect packs folder, and there he put in architect pack 001. This is the text file. It's the exact same thing we were looking at right there in Codex, but I'm just showing you that this is what's getting written. This is the brains of the project, the detailed plans that you're going to hand off to a builder, just like you would if you're building a house. Hey, Mr. Builder, here's the detailed set of plans that you're going to adhere to. Okay? So we're ready to have a conversation with the builder now. We're going to take our drawings, plans, and take it to a builder. Same thing, new session. I'm going to use the command in here. I'm going to go back to the launcher just to show you the instructions right here. The next step is to have the conversation with the builder. So again, commands in here. We're going to use Codex. We're going to use $120x-builder. That's going to start the agent and get it up to speed. And it's going to learn what it means to be a builder. And essentially what the instructions are, it's going to go read that architect pack. Now, while he's reading that pack, I'm going to rename this Builder Sprint 001. So now that I have these two separate agents within the session, they both have different personalities and different missions. This job of the builder is to execute what was in that architect pack and build a sprint. There's no coding in this first one. It's a lot of administrative, a lot of setting up the architecture and historical knowledge. It looks good. Of course, I'm speeding this up. When he says he's done, I take his done command, take it back to the architect and say, hey, man, what do you think? He said, yeah, man, it looks like he's done. Looks like he did a good job. And essentially, I close out that pack. So now I start a new conversation, a new architect session, right? I'm going to put that 120x architect command. I'm going to call this architect pack 002, and we're going to start this process and do another pack to start coding in Sprint 002. That's what we're doing here. All right, the architect session is a discovery session, right, where you're brainstorming. So he comes up with a good recommendation because he's read all the files in our system, and I pretty much agreed with what we should do next. And so he's coming up with the plan, the architect pack, again, the detailed set of instructions, and you can see it right here, just like I showed you in the first one. And you can see in our folder structure that he has put it in the architect packs. There's pack 002. These are the detailed set of instructions for the builder. So we need to have a builder conversation. So I'm going to start a new task. We're in the right folder. I'm going to do the build command in ChatGPT, and he starts acting as a builder. I'm going to rename this builder Sprint 002, just so I know on my left-hand sidebar which agent I'm talking to. And eventually he's going to come up with a implementation plan, and he's going to ask us to approve it. So I built this into the method. We do want to get another set of eyes on it. It can't hurt, and that's why we do the architect builder, right? So we're just double checking the work, making sure that the builder is going to build to our spec. So I copy it. I go back to the architect. and I paste his plan. I say, hey, this is from the builder. What do you think? And eventually the architect's going to evaluate it, and he's going to say, hey, yeah, this looks good. Let's approve it. And that's that last command there. So I'm going to copy what he told me to tell him. And I say, approve this. Now the builder's actually writing code at this point, right? So we're actually writing code. And if you look over here, and when he's done, he says, hey, this is what I did. Here's everything I updated. Here's all the files. I do take a copy of that, and I go back to the architect, said, just double check. Hey, he said he's done. Do you agree? He evaluates, and he says, hey, yeah, it looks good, and he is done. So it's approved. We can close the sprint. Now, over here, I just want to show you, you can look at your files in these IDEs over here, and you can see the sprints. This is what Builder built, these 4 files in each one of these sprints. And of course, these sprints correspond with the architect packs that you see right here. But in addition to all that, you can see that he updated a bunch of files. You can see the source code here too, right? If you want to evaluate the code, so code is actually being written, you can see that in the file structure. He's updating the decision log. He's updating, decisions, agents, MD, all these folders that you see over here in the green. These are all markdown files that basically is the historical knowledge keeping track of how the code is doing. Now on to sprint 3. Right, for sprint 3, let's do something different. Let's do this in Claude Code. Remember, the tool is agnostic. Because we update our folder structure so robustly, I'm going to go back to the project launcher. It's a different command. It's /architect for the architect. It's /build for the builder. Different tools, but does the same thing. So I'm going to start a new session, but I got to make sure I'm in the proper project scaffolding. So I'm going to go to my build folder. I'm going to make sure I connect it to the current project that we're working on. Open it up, and I can double check. Yep, I'm there. Now I can put in the /architect command, and it's going to engage the agent. It's going to assume the role of an architect. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to start reading all those markdown files in the folder. In the meantime, I'm going to rename this architect pack 003 for my own technique so I can know which agent I'm working with. I'm going to create a group called the Capital Funding Group, and now it's getting itself up to speed, and eventually it's going to, remember, the architect is the discovery session. We're just to make sure in this session he's going to tell you, hey, this is where we're at. This is what I think we should do. Here's some questions. And the reason why we can do this is to reinforce probably the most important file in this schema is this architect briefing. It gets updated after every sprint by the builder, where things stand. So this is how the architect can bring itself up to speed. Context is king when you're dealing with the AI. So we're in the discovery mode. The architect's asking me questions about the app. What do you want to do? He's giving me recommendations. Again, your architect is one of your best assets when you're creating an app. This is why I love this method so much. So you're brainstorming, you're coming up with, you're making decisions, and eventually he's going to say, hey, I got enough information. This is what I want to do. If you're ready, say generate the pack. I say, yep, generate the pack, and away he goes. So he's writing the detailed set of instructions. Now back here in the project launcher, I want to show you something. You can connect in Mission Control. You can connect any project you're working on. It'll give you the state. It'll tell you where it's at. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this folder or this project to our Mission Control, and you can see same thing, where things stand. Because we've got markdown files, we can read, we can get a summary of where we stand with this project. You can do it with all your projects in Project Launcher. Here's the full architect briefing if you want to read it. It's just a nice way to read these markdown files instead of, kind of a boring text file. And if you're using a PC, it's really nice to read them in here. You also got your folder structure here. You can see everything that you can see within the folder structure in the tool. Again, you can read the markdown files. Here's the architect packs. He's working on pack 3 at the moment. But again, just a nice way for the project launcher to be an asset to you, particularly if you're new to coding, to kind of see where your project stands. Now, back in the architect, he's finishing up the pack right here. He's got pack 03 done. And eventually I'm going to have to start a new conversation with the builder. And I'm going to make sure in the right folder, it's /build that engages the agent. I'm going to rename this builder sprint 3, and I'm going to move it into my project for organization so I know which agent is which. And eventually, the builder, just like the previous sprints, he's going to come up with the plan. He's going to stop. You can see it says stop. I got a code gate here. Here's my plan. This is the code I'm going to create. This is what I'm going to do. I need approval. So I'm going to take advantage of the architect and say, hey, this is what the builder said. What do you think? And eventually the architect's going to come back and say, hey, I approve, but with these changes, and this is why the architect's so powerful, I'm going to paste it into the builder conversation, and away he goes. You start coding. So again, from here on out, I'm speeding it up because it's just like the last sprints. We're just going back and forth. He's coding, he's writing things, maybe asking me questions here and there. finding errors, cleaning up errors, and eventually he gets done and he says, "Hey, I'm all done. This is what I've updated." You can look at the markdown folders that he's, what he's done for your own edification if you want. But eventually, this sprint is now closed, and we can go on to the last sprint, sprint 4, and I'm going to do that back in Codex. Okay, we're back in Codex for sprint 4, but I'm not going to belabor the point. It's exactly the same thing. I'm just speeding this up, eventually going back and forth. And what's going to happen in this sprint, it creates the UI. And this is what we end up with. Again, with taking that one specific question, can we take a capital expenditure? Can we take this messy spreadsheet, examine it, and answer a question? And now we can. And all because we spent about an hour's worth of time, 20 minutes of brainstorming, and then the rest of the time going through those 4 sprints, and it answers the question. Now, again, this was just an example for a demo for this video because I want to do something short enough so that you could just potentially see what's possible. But this is just scratching the surface. If you've got ideas in your head, if you've got a messy spreadsheet, that is a software application in the making. So for all the CFOs out there, everybody that's got these spreadsheets, this is what you can do. But if you can think about it, you can build it. I'm building 3 enterprise level apps at this point and getting ready to start a 4th for one company. Big apps that take about 2 months to do, but they would have taken 6 to 8 months in the old days. Now I can do it as a team of 1. So again, this architect builder method is extremely powerful. Look, that spreadsheet took years to become a mess, and you saw it at the start. The software took 4 sprints. And that's not because I'm a genius coder. No, it's because I'm disciplined and I put some structure behind it. It's because we spent the first 20 minutes deciding what was true with the brainstorming session before we built anything. What forecast numbers were real, whose numbers win, what we're not going to build. And then we use the project launcher to help us create this scaffolding with this architect builder method that gives us these agents that we can use that allows us the handoff to be a folder, not a conversation, right? Then we can be tool agnostic. We can have an architect conversation in Claude Code. We can have the builder conversation in the Codex and Fable 5. We can mix and match. And you can see the power in this. And not only that, the historical knowledge, that structure is what's key. Nobody's teaching you how to do that. If you're just vibe coding, if you're just opening up Claude Code and you're throwing tokens at it, which even some of the makers, which I totally disagree with, which I just think is totally inefficient. I'm using old, tried and true discipline, planning, structure, architecture, so you can hand it off to someone. You can hand it off to your client. You can hand it off to another human. You can hand it off to another agent, and you're going to know exactly what you're supposed to build, and it never gets lost. You don't hallucinate. You don't get the errors. You get this clean code, and you can build anything that you want to. You set your mind to it, you can build it. I'm not kidding about that. You can build anything. If you want to check out this method, you can go to 120x.ai. I do got an operator's kit. It's not the tools that you see right there, but at least it goes through the philosophy, and you can follow it, and you can apply it to your own if you really want to dig in. Real worked example of showing how I use the architect builder method, so at least you can understand the philosophy. But if you want to get a jump start, if you want the tool that you saw me using here, the project launcher, that project launcher is going to shortcut the hardest part of getting started with this. It's getting it started, because it's that folder structure that you're using the project launcher for. It can make it, easy for you to get it off the ground, so you're not wasting a lot of time updating, going back and forth. You can do it, but the project launcher gets that folder schema, that scaffolding set right at the beginning. That project launcher, you can go get it at the link below in the notes. You can get it at the project launcher tab at 120x.ai. It's $149. 200 people have used it. You can look at the video testimonies. A couple people in there, they've had ideas in their heads, and they finally, with this architect builder method, they had it messed. Maybe they started in Replit, or maybe they started in Lovable or something, and they just got this mess. The architect builder can clean it up. It can clean it up. It can take your mess and find the gold in those chunks of code that you've made in Replit or whatever, and we can clean it up, and we can get it in that scaffolding, and you're off to the races, and you can start building anything, right? So let me know what you think. Give me the comments. If you've got a workbook yourself, if you can strip out some of the sensitive stuff, if you want me to demo something and build something, you got an idea you want me to build, maybe get a free little micro app, send it to me. Send me an email and let me know, and we'll build it. We'll do a demo right here, and maybe you can join in on the Zoom, and we can build it together. I just want to show you. Again, this isn't vibe coding. This isn't hype. This isn't get rich quick. This is guys, this is the best time to be an entrepreneur in the history of the planet. Bar none. Bar none. And again, I mean, I left the high-paying airline job, and I've replaced my airline income. If that tells you anything of what you can potentially do, be your own boss. Get ahead of the game. It seems like a lot of people are doing these tools. They're not, right? These tools are only getting better. These models are getting better. I did this in the latest models of Fable 5 and in GPT-6 and using the tools. I did it in this video. So it's amazing, guys. They're only going to get better. So I'm Ray. Real systems don't start with guessing. They start with checklist, discipline, architecture, and a clean handoff. So I'll see you in the next build.